Okay, hello everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our special programming. Tonight we have Dr. Haynes and Dr. Cordes from Counseling and Psychological Services, otherwise known as CAPS, and they're going to tell you a thing or two about it.
Excellent. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
I gotta unmute myself. Can everybody hear me? Excellent. Okay. Thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Well, I've seen some familiar faces, so this is great. I really appreciate the opportunity to come connect and share lots of exciting things. You hear me say excited a lot. Crystal hears me say excited a lot. Mm-hmm. So we're looking forward to having the opportunity. Chris Haynes, him, his, Senior Director of CAPS.
Crystal Cordes, she, her, hers. I'm the Outreach Director over at CAPS.
Yes. So let's get started. And I brought some, of course, swag up here. I'm tempted to throw it, but if I miss...
He likes throwing things.
I don't want to miss. You want?
It's his gimmick.
That's what I'm talking about. There we go. See, I handed it over.
I thought you were going to throw it.
I was tempted.
See, they're consenting to having things thrown at them, Chris. You should go for it.
These things don't work quite as well. All right, so we'll try it. Give me a couple minutes and we'll get it. All right, so like I said, excited to be here. M-Hall Week, that's what I'm talking about. Very excited. And spring break's next week. So we appreciate the time today. I'm sure you're quite busy. So excited to have a time to share, like I said, the updates, the overview, kind of our general strategies at CAPS, as well as have opportunity to answer some questions. Sound like a plan? All right. So at CAPS, we often use the term community of care. I'm sure a lot of you have heard me say that word and phrase. Really like to say that a lot. Part of it has this idea that how can we not only create a system that creates access to support the continuum of needs on campus, but also view each other and you as partners in those efforts in promoting wellness on campus and well-being and mental health. So at CAPS, we've built out a system that really thinks about the continuum of needs on campus and how each student, if they feel like they need some support, can have a space and a way to connect with us to get that support. And we've done quite a bit of updates. I'm excited to share those. And you'll be able to see what that looks like real time. Also, as I said, seeing each other as partners. When I interact with faculty, staff, and students, student leaders, you are partners in these efforts. How can we work together to promote access and support, help seeking, also talking about wellness in different spaces and well-being. We also acknowledge the impact of national and world issues, international issues, and the impact that has on us as individuals, as a community and society, and being able to have conversations around those are incredibly important. So a little bit about what we offer. Do you want?
Sure. And one of the things I want to add too, in addition to all of your wonderful comments.
Yes.
So since campus engagement is kind of my wheelhouse, it's in my title. One of the things that's really important for me is to make sure that students, faculty, staff, parents understand that what we're trying to do is make sure that mental health isn't just something that happens when you enter the doors of PUSH or when you enter one of our buildings. We want to make mental health accessible to all of our students. We want to make sure those conversations are happening on campus and that some of those conversations are fun, i.e. the block party on Monday. We want to make sure that we're meeting people where they're at, and some people are ready to talk about suicide and they're ready to come in and do therapy and they have specific needs and things that they want to address, and some people are just asking about therapy and mental health and thinking about self-care for the first time ever. So we want to make sure that we're making our services accessible for those people, and if that means going out into the community, creating fun programs, creating workshops, seeing my face all the time, then that's what we'll do. So creating a community of care, this is another thing. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I just did that.
I was like, you're tricking me with the slides.
I'm sorry. My fault.
So one of the things that's really important for us is to think about CAPS as an opportunity to do prevention, education, and treatment. So we aren't just doing mental health, we're trying to think holistically about what that looks like for everybody on campus. We have staff to meet people's needs depending on what their needs are when they come in the door. So some of our staff is there doing individual therapy, running groups, assisting clients and getting connected with services. We have case managers and care managers and psychiatrists who also do a really good job of helping people who maybe have needs that lead them more off campus, something more long-term, something more specialized, or have a higher need from a perspective that we can serve as a campus that closes for Christmas, and students who aren't here in the summer and aren't enrolled and can't access services. Sometimes if your need is really high and what your treatment needs are is beyond the scope of what we can do during an academic calendar year, we have a responsibility to help those people get placements off campus. So we really try to make sure we have staff, and I think we're fully staffed now with care managers. We have 4, yes, and they're lovely. You may have seen one of them working the cotton candy machine on Monday if you came to the event and tried to catch some cotton candy as it was flying through the air. We have lots of people working double time to try and make sure that those students are getting what they need. We offer lots of different types of services. We have people who are just there to talk to students who might want more information about medication but aren't sure if they want medicine. We try to make sure we're meeting people across that spectrum regardless of where they're coming in our doors, and we try to do that in a same day, next day appointment. So our brief screens right now that we offer, it's a phone call that you can get either the day you call in to start that process or the next day. We have openings all the time. We're constantly checking the schedule to make sure that we're accommodating students in real time. Also, since I'm always on campus, I want to be able to confidently say that our students are able to get seen same day, next day for that brief screen appointment so they can start the process of getting where they need to go within our system or in the community. And that's something we're really proud of.
So I want to emphasize same day, next day for anybody wanting to connect with services. It's not just crisis. We actually have 2 therapists on duties at all time. We call them TODs for those crisis services. But the same day, next day is for anybody wanting to connect with care, connect with services. Thinking about it, usually it takes a lot for somebody to be open to help seeking. And we want to be there at the opportunity of the moment to be there to be supportive for them. So you're going to hear me say that again too, same day, next day. This is actually, I did this last year and we did it virtually. So I just want to acknowledge it's really nice to see everybody in person. The other thing is I heard last year, tell us a little bit about CAPS. And I just want to give a quick example. If you go to our website, we actually have a CAPS staff page now with pictures, and we're currently adding additional headshots of our staff as well as some bios and information about those staff members. Because I really want it to be accessible for students to be able to get a look and see who CAPS is, see the team, and connect with us. So that was an example of some feedback I received last year that I just want to share implemented. So if you want to see the team, feel free to refresh that page, and we keep adding people, which is exciting. So I'm going to share some of that as well. So I'm going to give you the quick kind of updates, general things, but then we're going to go into more specifics about services. But as I was here last year, or like I said, virtually, I shared the vision and the plan, but I also want to share some outcomes in terms of our system over this past year. We've enhanced our staffing. So we have a national accreditation that recommends 1 for every 1,500 students, 1 counselor. And our current staffing is actually below the national accreditation. So I want to share that. We actually got additional positions. And it's consistent with enrollment trends. So that's one of those really great, wonderful updates for us. We also last year added a psychiatric provider. So we have 4 psychiatric providers on staff as well as a staff nurse to support the providers and the important work that they do. And this person also does mental health or education, medication education, medical education appointments. So we've really significantly increased that capacity. We've also, as Crystal said, we doubled our high-risk team, which is their care managers. They provide specialized care to those students that are maybe facing some complex challenges with systems, dealing with some challenging situations, and they aren't able to wait because they might have a lot of stuff going on for them and they need that additional support. So we actually doubled them, and we have 4 full-time care managers now. They also are staff therapists, so they're master's level clinicians, licensed or license eligible, but it's an exciting thing that we have. We've also have opened recruitment and added 2 positions that provide specialized care for areas that were significantly needed. An eating disorder specialist, coordinator actually, and then also a DBT, dialectical behavior therapy coordinator. So these are 2 key areas for us to be able to really expand the services that we can provide students. We also continue to recruit and expand the diversity and expertise of our staff. So that's something I'm really excited that we've been able to do over this past year plus. We are not a one-size-fits-all model, one-size-fits-all system. So what I mean by that is a student doesn't just have to call CAPS and do a brief screen in order to get some support. We believe in creating flexible and accessible service options. And Crystal can share more about that in a minute, but kind of mention that how can students connect with us on campus in more flexible ways versus the typical connect us with brief screen, which obviously is available same day, next day, but you're gonna see we have services out in the community as well on campus, ways to connect with us. We actually have new updates where students can self-enroll in services that historically they weren't able to. So we're going to be sharing more and more about that. So I wanted to give some of these quick kind of bullet points. I showed this last year, and I'm going to always have it because I think it's incredibly important. We're a dynamic system. The student needs in our system, and we're going to evolve over and over again. This year we have a Latinx support group, new group that we haven't had before. We have a building social confidence group for social anxiety. These are 2 areas that we realize, we need to really have something specific to support these groups. So these are new offerings. We're going to continue to evolve as a system based on the feedback and kind of what we see. Again, it's brief treatment, student-centered, it's accessible. Most services are free. The only thing that has a cost is psychiatry, and that's only $25 an appointment. And as well as holistic wellness, we work very closely with our campus partners, PUSH, RecWell, ODOS, a number of other ones, cultural centers, really to talk more holistically about what we do and how we can have these conversations and support on campus. You take this one too?
Oh, I can do it. All right, so in addition to the things that we're talking about, I think a lot of this is just kind of more detail about what's going on for the same day, next day brief screens, how we're matching services to students' needs. We are trying to, we work to make sure that we're thinking through what is the most effective way to meet a student's needs that's going to be the least amount of labor for them. So we don't want to throw everybody in individual group or individual therapy every week if what they need is a workshop. I saw you thinking about what I was saying, and I was like, I'm locking eyes to make sure you get what I'm saying. So anyway, we want to make sure that if there's a student who can get their needs met with something like a workshop or an online app that we offer through WellTrack, then we want to try and do that because we know how busy students are. So we want to try and meet those students' needs in a way that's going to be time sensitive to them, accessible to them, and convenient for them, and not have them in therapy for a long time if that's not what those needs are. So trying to think through, are there self-help things that we can use? Are there brief support groups? We have the grief group that runs throughout the semester, but it's on a rotation, so students can come in, give it a try, see how it works. And then if they're not getting what they need from that, then they can touch base with their therapist and say, maybe I want to try something else. So we're trying to think about it almost like a stepped care model of we want to start with the lowest level of care that we can to meet those needs and then kind of move up those stairs to more intense treatment based on what those needs may be. And then we're always assessing with our students to see how they're doing. So I might have a student go try one of our workshops and then touch base with me when it's over and see, do you feel like you met your treatment goals? Do you have questions? Are there things that you still want to work on? And if they're good to go, great. But if there's something else that they want to touch base about, then we might try something else. So trying to think through, based on their assessments, based on what they're telling me, based on what their goals are we able to meet those treatment goals within our model and scope? Or do we need to look off campus? So we're trying to think about how we can do things at CAPS and get innovative and get creative, not just with what we do with each individual student, but with our offerings, to think through what are some ways that we can meet needs.
The nice thing about this, I think about it as tailored support, right? You have a student connect with us, we send them an email, which is a new thing that we have, is a welcome letter to them, like, welcome to CAPS, we're here to support you in your success at Purdue. Here's what to expect in this first contact with us, and here's the things that we utilize to approach our services, and here's what we want to do to help support you. And as you'll see, this stepped care, we've been building out all these levels because I want the student to be able to come in, get connected with us, and be able to have a conversation about what do we recommend? What makes the most sense given what you're coming in with, what you're looking to get out of services, what you're interested in. And for me, the more we can build out these options, the more options we have for students and the more they can feel individualized, tailored support for them. To highlight what Crystal said a minute ago was, this is our step care model, and the interesting thing is the bottom 3 steps actually occur on campus in the community. Crystal, being the director of outreach and campus engagement, really creates and pushes out all these things, which is so exciting for us because students can connect with us in non-traditional ways. Like I said, they're not a one-size-fits-all. But we're building out all those different levels, and then we have the additional, we're adding groups, we're adding obviously capacity for individual therapy, we're adding psychiatry, so really creating those options for students and matching the recommendation based on the needs and the goals of the student. So we offer, like I said, a range of therapy group options, and I thought this would be a nice example to share. So right now, I think it's 22 groups that we offer weekly. These are opportunities to connect with other individuals, maybe with similar concerns. Sometimes it's identity focused, sometimes it's presenting concern focused, and it creates this sense of community and a therapeutic space to really talk through and provide support and grow in an area. And here's a list of all of our current groups, and like I said, it continues to evolve. But something I want to emphasize in that it's not a one-size-fits-all. We want to create access for students. So some of our identity-based groups, specifically, if you see this is the Latinx support group. We've had this available, this flyer available on campus, social media. A student can use that QR code and set up a meeting with NAS as part of the group screen to talk about that group. It's a different way of approaching the care. So a student can call and do the brief screen the traditional way, but if a student sees that, connects with that, and they're thinking that might be the best way, it's a way to reduce barriers for students. So they can actually set up a connect directly with NAS for that to see, is this a good group for me? Does this make sense for me? And that's part of that update, to really reduce the barriers that students might face, create that access for students.
So Let's Talk is another one of the initiatives that we kind of have started pushing, and also similar to the Latinx group, we're trying to think through what are the needs of our students and how can we make adjustments based on what we're seeing, what's working, what's not working. So with the groups, we had certain students who were like, I don't know about this whole going to CAPS, doing an intake, this seems like a lot. So we were like, bet, let's put a QR code on a flyer, sign up that way. Sounds good. So we're making things more accessible. With Let's Talk, originally we were in all academic spaces. And student feedback was, when I'm in my class, I don't really want to sit down with a counselor and talk and touch base. That doesn't really work for me. So we were like, cool, let's move into some different spaces. So we moved this semester to walk Trying to get space and walk, by the way, is like Thunderdome. So now I know, my God.
Listen.
It's a lot. It's a lot of work. So we're in walk every Tuesday. We're in the Grad Student Center as well on Tuesdays. And then every Friday we're in Croc from 12 to 2. So we have foot traffic. We're in places where students are hanging out, where students are eating, where students are studying, doing homework. And that seems to be working a lot better because students aren't feeling like they are walking out of class and then seeing their therapist in a room as they're going to their next class. And that seems to be a more accessible space for students. We're always looking to think about ways to update it, but right now Let's Talk is an opportunity for students to come in without an appointment on a first come, first served basis and touch base with a counselor for a consultation. So it's not therapy, but it is an opportunity to do some solution-focused conversation between you and a therapist. So if you have a question, if there's a problem you have, if there's an issue, you can sign a little confidentiality form saying, we're not gonna tell anybody you came, we're not gonna take all of your information down.
You're not a client.
You're not a client. And then we can have a conversation about what it is your needs are, what your questions are. We can get those answered and then send you on your way, which works great for students who are like, I don't know if I'm ready to go to CAPS. I don't know if I need therapy. I'm not sure. But since you're here, let me ask a question really quick. And that seems to be working really well. The drop-in model seems to be working really well. We have people consistently there, so students know to look for us during those times. And we've gotten some really good traction with that, and that's something we're pushing out and promoting more and more this semester.
Another example of that, that kind of reducing barriers, that quick access support for students is our workshop, drop-in workshop program. Historically, students would have to call, do a brief screen, and then be recommended to a workshop. Now we still have that pathway, but we also offer the ability for students to self-enroll in these workshops through again, the QR code. So it's this idea of, hey, I'm interested in maybe learning a little bit about depression, anxiety, inner calm. We also have end of semester ones usually as well, that a student can do the QR code. You as a campus partner can hand it to another student and say, hey, here's this way you can connect with CAPS that could be helpful. You're not a client. It's an opportunity to engage with us without going through that typical process. And I think everybody could benefit from some of these skills and these connection points. So I want faculty to know they can hand it to students, students to hand it to students, advisors, thinking about ways that we can create opportunities for students to benefit from some skill development, some knowledge around important topics relevant to them in college. And I really want to emphasize, it's nice that it can be self-enrolled. We have a whole process for it.
And since it's 2023 and most of us aren't always looking at flyers, it's also on our link tree on our Instagram, and it's also on our website.
What's our Instagram?
Purdue CAPS.
Oh, yeah.
On
Purdue Caps.
Instagram. Yes, thank you for asking.
Is it follow or like? What is it?
Follow, yeah.
Okay.
Bless your heart. So, yeah, feel free to check that out or send that link to anyone or yourself if you want to try it.
We also offer weekly campus conversations, community conversations in the cultural centers. It's an important space for us to be able to have CAPS staff go out into these spaces and engage in culturally affirming, inclusive, and relevant ways and topics around mental health. Seeing us out there in those spaces, engaging informally, and having that continuity is incredibly important. And I think it's really created wonderful partnerships, to say the least. These are examples of some of the flyers that have been created. I saw a more recent one recently for the Chat with CAPS one. But it gives you a snapshot. Usually the cultural centers or us will create these, but it's a way to advertise who we are in these spaces, when to expect us, and create that connection, which is so important. The last thing I'll talk about quickly is WellTrack. And I'm going to mention that I didn't throw it in here, but we do have on our website, we are going to have a new program effective July 1st called TAO, Therapy Assistance Online. And it's really exciting, to say the least. There's a video announcing it. and it greatly expands the topics and the resources that are included in a program. And in the meantime, we continue to have WellTrack. So we're going to always have that self-help option. The benefit of this is that you can connect with it, you can use it on your phone, you can develop some skills, learn some information, and it's purely self-enrolled again through Boiler Key. It's confidential, and it's a way for you to get some support. And like I said, coming up July 1st, we have a new one that will greatly expand it, that incorporates some assessments and all kinds of good stuff into it. So look forward to that. So a little bit about how to connect with us. I think we've said the word access a few times, right?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, flexible a few times. That's the goal, right? We're available 24/7. We have an after-hours crisis line. Typical year, 500-600 phone calls to our crisis line. So we have that available 24/7 for students. But we also, you can attend a workshop now that they're drop-ins. You can attend a Let's Talk. I didn't say it earlier, but we're doing a lot of conversations with faculty and staff, as well as we go into some classrooms or some departments or organizations and student orgs and have conversations around mental health. So
yeah, we're working behind the scenes to make sure that we're advocating for our students with our faculty and staff. And, you know, from a social justice perspective, that's important because I think sometimes we have seats at tables that you all don't. So we want to make sure that the information that we're gathering from our work with students, we're advocating for your needs as well around your mental health. So when faculty and staff ask us to come in, a lot of the times Chris or I will take those conversations and not even other staff members to make sure that we're sending cohesive messages about, you know, wanting to make mental health accessible and normalizing some of these conversations and spaces outside of just CAPS, because we can add 8 million therapists, but if you have 36 hours of work and 24 hours to do it, that's not really going to fix that problem. So we want to make sure we're supporting students and getting what they need outside of CAPS as best we can.
Absolutely. Promoting well-being in the classroom. And we have done quite a bit of that with faculty and staff and advisors. And I've been really happy to see the level of invitations we've had and the ability we've had to connect with those areas.
And I will also say too, just to add, I know people are poised to clap, but as a staff member now who is a Purdue alum, I was here for 5 years. And during that 5 years where I was a graduate student, I know that CAPS looked different. So I'm super aware of how much CAPS has changed, even in the time that I've been here. So just because we don't have it, just because it's not happening, doesn't mean we're not open to it. And we're aware, you know, I am very aware of what CAPS used to look like back in the day. I was a prac student at CAPS when we had a different director. So I'm aware of some of the changes that have been made. And I'm really excited about them, or I wouldn't be here. But I want to make sure that you all hear somebody who's been on the student side of trying to figure out services or help my friends get services. I understand, you know, that there's a lot of changes that have happened, and we're trying to get buy-in with students who maybe have had different kinds of experiences prior to now. But we're open to hearing that feedback. We want to make those changes, and like I said, just because we don't have it doesn't mean we don't want to have it, and we're just really excited about the opportunity to keep making changes and making improvements based on the feedback that we're getting. So thank you so much for having us.
And I want to say something real quick. I'm sorry, Crystal made me think about it. I always start out the presentations with "It's a new day."
I was trying to duck that
and
line.
I didn't say it. Well, you brought it up, but I said it enough where I had a whole group say "It's a new day."
But I circled the block so we wouldn't have to do it.
So anyway, it's a new day.
Yes. Oh, Jaden.
I just want to say something real quick. Working with CAPS from IMHA, I had a huge misconception about CAPS as a whole, you know, hearing that from other students. And I just want to say, if I've learned one thing from working with CAPS, is that they really want to help students. They care about students more than anything. And we don't let them help us I think there's enough in like troubling things in this world where people don't support mental health and they don't support healing and they don't support asking for help. These people want to help, so let them help. And I cannot commend them enough for doing what they do and constantly fighting, you know, people not wanting their help, and they go into work every day and they still are there for students. So I can't, you know, speak highly enough of them.
We did not pay her to say that.
Yep.
Thank you, Jade.
Thank you.
Any questions, anyone? We're done talking, we promise. Oh, yes.
Hi, I just had a few questions about the timeline. So you guys say that like it's same day, next day. So when a student calls and they are looking for like a brief screen, after they have that brief screen, about how much time would you say is between that and the treatment that they receive?
Yep. So it depends on the time of the semester, to be honest with you. So I'll give you a current right now, right? So if a student connects with us, they get the same day, next day. You've heard me say it. Depending what time of day, it could be an hour from now, it could be a half hour, it could be 3 hours. And then part of that has to do with a recommendation based on the level of need. There are times where the level of need is, I need to spend a lot more time with somebody right now in person. We bring them in and meet with them for crisis services right then. Like I said, we have 2 therapists on duty at all times that provide that support. We might have them where maybe they just got out of the hospital and they might need some intensive support. We have care managers who are available the next day to meet with that person. I recommend it's usually within a week, but I'm just giving you currently it's next day. Also, if we want to do an initial consultation, which is that next appointment for a typical, hey, we're going to initiate treatment, because you mentioned treatment. It depends on the level of urgency. We call it urgent versus routine. Urgent means there's something going on, we got to make sure we have additional ways to support them, assess, and we're wanting to do that in a quicker way because of maybe there's some risk, some complexity, maybe they're concerned about whether or not they're going to withdraw in a week, and we need to get them in quicker to provide that support. Right now, that is a day to 3 days to 4 days, depending on when that person calls and gets that first appointment. So as of when I looked at earlier today, we had them available tomorrow. Okay? So if they want to go into a group, that's within a week as well to get set up for a group screen. The longest wait time is when it's a routine initial consultation. You're appropriate to get treatment here, and we think that it's in the sense of level of severity and risk, there's the ability to wait. So we call them routine. Nobody's routine, but you get what I'm saying in terms of the appropriate wait time. That's 2 weeks. It's 10 business days, 8 to 10 business days. That's the longest wait. But I also want to emphasize that the person is provided the crisis services, the walk-ins, those types of things. If they're interested in going into a workshop, we offer 7 of them each week. So does that make sense? The weight has to do with the recommendations. I call it a support plan, so it's based on the level of care needed for that student. So if it's risk, it's immediate. If there's some complexity to it and they need some immediate support, then it could be the next day if we're okay with that for crisis purposes. But we've doubled that care management team. So those are the students that there's just a lot going on and we need to have some real intensive support for them. And I'm really proud of that team. So it helps us really make sure if somebody's waiting, they know how to connect with us. They're connecting with some workshops in the meantime, and then they can start treatment. Does that answer the question? Okay. And what I mean by it depends on when you ask. Sometimes it could be a week for that follow-up. Sometimes it could be a little bit more than the 8 to 10 days. Yeah.
My question definitely surrounds students who are coming and maybe seeking help, and maybe it's more of a situational thing, something happened in their life. Is there services, or is there the possibility, I don't know if these exist, where we talk to professors about giving them time to like kind of to step away from school just for a couple days and have that kind of be excused with a few, I guess, a few things that can't be excused if it's like a government mandated class or something like that. But I feel like, is there a connection between CAPS and maybe the professors if people are going through something where it's like a death in the family or just something like that was really detrimental to their life?
So Purdue offers those things usually through the Office of the Dean of Students. So a lot of the times, ODOS will, if they're aware, write those letters or notify those faculty about if there's a student death or if there's a death or something that a student needs to attend to urgently. So usually we work pretty closely with them to make sure that students get connected with those services, because we try to follow, the resource pipeline that's already available. But if there's something long-term, we do medical withdrawal paperwork at Purdue CAPS, and we also work with students who are trying to get accommodations for classes. So if there is something that comes up and I have a student who needs a little bit of extra help at this point just for the rest of the semester or something like that, we can fill out paperwork for the Disability Resource Center to get them the accommodations they need if something happens all of a sudden. I believe I asked Chris to sign off on one of those today, and I slid it under his door because we were both in meetings, and then he ran up behind me and threw it at me, and then I sent it in because we do what we got to do. But I think we are always trying to figure out different ways to meet students' needs because stuff is coming up. And we also have students who just need to talk to somebody right now. So if there is something situational, we do try to label those as more urgent cases so that those issues can be addressed in a timely manner. Because if something's going on right now, coming in 8 to 10 days isn't always helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's why I mentioned there's some deadlines coming up that are very impactful for students. So
Yes.
That's an example of providing some access for a student. Just to echo what Crystal was saying, I really think of ODOS as the campus advocate around those pieces. Mm-hmm. So we often partner with them to provide that support. So we can, if a student fills out an ROI, release of information, obviously least amount of information needed, but they would sign a form and we can help them connect with ODOS, share, hey, we're providing some support for a situational issue. Can you connect with them? And I know they're wonderful and they're willing to advocate for a student as much as they can. So we call it a network of support, and I want to emphasize that because if we can't do it, there's a department that we can connect with. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, firstly, I want to thank you both for coming here and talking to us. I know it's always one of my favorite programs to be able to hear from you and the CAPS department as a whole. I guess I have two questions. The first one sort of stemming off what was the conversation around ODOS. If a student goes to ODOS for maybe a situational need in order to get class excused, is there any connection that CAPS would reach out to that student if they're granted some sort of situational absences? Is there any connection, you sort of talk about from the CAPS side, and if there's a need for that, then go to the ODOS side. Is there any reverse connection that occurs that when someone goes to ODOS talking about maybe a family death, that CAPS connects with ODOS in that respect?
So I guess a couple things, right? Earlier today, it's actually not uncommon to see somebody from ODOS walk a student over to get connected with us. So we partner a lot, so they'll walk students over and say, hey, CAPS is available, let me help you get connected, and they'll introduce them to us. It's always student willing and wanting to do that. CAPS doesn't reach out specifically to students because as healthcare providers, self-determination is very important. But oftentimes they would connect the student to us by walking them over or giving them the information. There might be times where they'll say, hey, I have a student that's going to call. What should I say? And we'll give them some specific language, like tell them to call CAPS and we have this availability. So we work together to make sure we create that connection. I hope that answers it. But it's not uncommon for them to come over and walk a student over.
Thank you. And then my next question was, I know that one thing is that there's sometimes some misconceptions on students about exactly what CAPS provides. So one of the conversations about brief individualized treatment, I know that is not necessarily always like ongoing, that's generally sort of transitioned out to other community resources. How do you ensure that students sort of feel CAPS support when it goes from transitioning from sort of brief individual treatment to ongoing support elsewhere outside of CAPS?
So if we're thinking about brief therapy, and I think that this is one of those things that sounds one way and is another way. Brief therapy isn't 3 sessions, or it isn't we're trying to see you and then get you placed somewhere else. We see students, I would say on average, 8 to 12 sessions, and that usually will, for most students, be a semester. Most of the time, research shows that a lot of the times, if we're doing like a bi-weekly 8 to 12, most student need can be addressed in that time. So most therapy, effective therapy, is under 20 sessions. Sometimes you have students who are like, I had a therapist in high school. I was in therapy for all 4 years of high school, and I want a therapist that I can see for all 4 years of college. If those people don't have like an identified treatment goal, for example, they don't have a specific thing they want to work on, it's hard to work within that model of like, we're going to work together to meet a goal so we can keep checking in about your progress towards that goal if you don't have one but you want a therapist, which I get. I was a grad student here. There were times when I had goals that I wanted to meet in therapy, and then there were times where I was like, I probably should talk to somebody. This dissertation's a little difficult. So it depended. But I think that when we have students who have goals that they want to address in therapy, we do everything we can to meet those in therapy. So it's not so much that we're sending people out into the community halfway through that process. It's usually we start with them and we help them meet those needs in a timely manner. But if we get to a certain point in therapy where it's like your goals have been met, you got what you said you wanted to address in therapy accomplished, or you've achieved your goals within our model, then we might start talking about if you enjoy therapy and you just want to continue, maybe we can look at some options off campus. And then we can do that together. We can look at different resources. Sometimes we can get people hooked up with one of our care managers to get them connected off campus if that's something that they want to pursue. But a lot of the times I would say, and I say this as somebody who's been working in counseling centers for all of my career, by the time those goals are met, usually people are feeling pretty empowered to be done with therapy at that point. And if they're not, we're talking about, so what are the things that we need to identify that would be signals for you to come back? Because there's no like rule that says you can't come back and do short-term therapy again. You might have another goal, something else might happen, and then you come back and start services over when you need help at a different point in your college experience. So it's not that we're trying to get people started and then get people out. We're trying to get those goals met. We're trying to address those concerns within our system, and then sometimes we have students that we can't address those goals in our system because either the needs are too high and it honestly just isn't safe. If you're suicidal and you need access to a therapist every day, then we can't really do that if we're closed on weekends and we are closed for Christmas. So you might need more intensive care, like a hospital or something like that. So we have to get you connected off campus. And then we have people who have just a desire for a long-term therapist. And we like to be honest about the fact that that's not always something we can meet, but we can try and work with you, see if that's actually the case. And if it is, that you just want a therapist, then we can get you connected with services off campus. So like Chris was saying, and I know that was a long-winded answer, it's definitely not one size fits all, but I do think that there's a misconception that we're starting students at CAPS and then we're just like giving them the boot. Because most of the time, that's not the case. And a lot of the time, people don't know what they don't know about what they're looking for when they start therapy. And they think they want a therapist for the next 4 years. And really, they want some skills, some things that they can work on, and then they're feeling good and they're ready to be done. But I think that we try to make our space a safe space for all of those students to give CAPS a try. And if it's not a good fit, we try to be as supportive as we can and getting them where they need to go. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah, just to, I think, be helpful to share just to echo that, you know, it's a 4-day session framework because we are an access model for 50,000 students. We want to be able to create that opportunity to connect with those students. And part of the welcome message is sharing, this is the model, this is what to expect, this is how we kind of approach your care and support. And as Crystal was saying, we talk about goals and how we can connect. The other pieces I will say is if we do refer somebody out, maybe after they've had a certain number of sessions and they say, you know what, I'd like to continue, we have people that help support that. So we have a referral specialist where her specialty is to help students make those phone calls, walk through their insurance, come up with ideas around how to get connected to those services, as well as the care management team. So we actually have 5 people on the team that support those students with those connections. So I really want to emphasize that, is that if it is something we end up referring, they get lots of support on the way to as part of that referral.
And I also want to add too, we also aware of accessibility issues. So some students have health insurance, a car, and money. So going off campus for therapy is not an issue. They got that good parent insurance. They can go wherever they need to go, and it's great. And then we have some students who don't have that. So getting them out into the community is going to look different and isn't going to be as accessible. So we want to make sure we're being sensitive to that when we're talking about people wanting long-term care, because sometimes that's super easy and sometimes it's not, and we aren't going to just drop those students. So sometimes things don't fit that brief therapy model, but we're not giving those students the boot either. Any other questions?
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you for the chance to connect with this group. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful spring break.
And take a stress ball.
Brain.
Just start chucking them at it. They'll pick it up. You gotta take her over there. Oh God. Okay, so before we go into our session, we have some new senators who need to take their oath of office. So come on down if you're new. That means you. That means Caitlin.
You can just come over here. How you guys doing? Good. Yeah, you guys, you can just stand here. And then I'll give this to you guys. You can hold it because you're in the middle there. And then you guys just repeat after me. All right. And then
Okay.
obviously, if I say your name, you don't say your name. You say your own active name. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. All right. So I state your name.
I, Andrew Fierstein,
On this 8th day of March 2023,
on this 8th day of March 2023,
swear to abide by and uphold
swear to abide by and uphold
the Constitution and the bylaws
the Constitution and the bylaws
of the Purdue Student Government.
of the Purdue Student Government.
I swear to conduct
I swear to conduct
all legislative business
all legislative business
with the utmost integrity
with the utmost integrity
and with the best interest of Purdue University and its student body.
and with the best interests of Purdue University and its student body as my main objectives. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay. Well, welcome to our new senators. Happy to have you here, and welcome to everyone else. So, at 7:51 p.m., I will now call this meeting to order. If you are a visitor, can you please state your name and your reason for being here?
Hi, my name is Johnny. I'm here for the state reason.
Perfect.
My name is Katie Willing. I'm with the Exponent.
My name is Katie Gorsuch, and I'm with the Purdue Exponent.
Thank you all. Now we will move into proxy reports. If you are a proxy, can you please state your name and the senator you are proxying for at this time?
I'm Luke Stockel, and I'm a proxy for Madison Cars.
Perfect. All right. Hearing no more proxies, we can now move into roll call by Secretary Friend.
Senator Ferguson.
Here.
Here. Senator Terrell.
Absent.
Senator Scudder. Here. Senator Cashon.
Here.
Senator Brown.
Here.
Senator Kirkendall.
Here.
Senator Alkazemi.
Here.
Senator Diaz.
Here.
Senator Wheeler.
Absent.
Senator Dodona.
Here.
Senator Bottini.
Here.
Senator Conrad.
Here.
Senator Alexander.
Here.
Senator DeLucia Green.
Here.
Senator Famua.
Here.
Senator Sexton.
Absent.
Senator Ack.
Here.
Senator Toshik.
Here.
Senator Hansa. Senator Bowman.
Absent.
Senator de Guzman.
Here.
Senator Kirsch.
Absent.
Senator Adam.
Here.
Senator Johnson.
Here.
Senator Feuerstein.
Here.
Senator De Silva.
Here.
Senator Liu.
Absent.
Senator Woodruff.
Here.
Senator Toriani.
Absent.
Senator Rigney.
Absent.
Senator Robinson.
Absent.
Senator LaRoche.
Here.
Senator Jane.
Absent.
All right. Now that that is done, we can now move into our land acknowledgement. So Purdue Student Government acknowledges the traditional homelands of the indigenous people which Purdue University is built upon. We honor and appreciate the Potawatomi, Delaware, Miami, and Shawnee people who are the original indigenous caretakers. Now, senators, please rise for your pledge of purpose. Our purpose is to be the Very nice, everyone. The minutes for the last meeting were distributed to all via SharePoint. Are there any corrections to the minutes at this time? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as distributed. We will now go into executive reports. So, President Jensen, do you have any at this time?
I do. One, sorry for my attire. I was supposed to be at PGSG and expected it to take a while, but it was really quick. And so my first update comes from them. So the joint resolution that's going through tonight passed unanimously through PGSG. And so that's really exciting. So we'll see that later on. as well as lift by the numbers in March. And so I'm sure some of you have seen that we upped the lift program, and so it's now called the Purdue Sevens Ride. And so the discount is now $7. It's 7 days a week after 7 p.m. And so from that, we saw an uptick over the weekend. During the school year, or I guess during the week, there's probably like 20 to 30 rides a night. But then with the increase in the discount, we saw a major uptick in demand this weekend. And so looking at it right now, there were 715 rides this month with 470 riders. And so in comparison to last month, that's already half of the rides that were taken last month in one weekend. And so that's really great. We'll probably have to shut it down once it hits 2,000 rides. Spring break might help with that a little bit. And then the average ride cost is right around $11, with the median cost being $9.90. And so what that is after, I guess the average amount students are paying after a fare plus fees plus tips minus the discount is right around $4. So hopefully that goes down a little bit. And then within board of directors, all right, I'll give it. But SP&A, or SPANDA as they like to call it, just did a lift analysis through their survey as well as through the lift data from January and February, and I absolutely love it. Hopefully they'll be presenting that here soon, and so we'll get that update to you guys as well. Another update is building a legislative kind of docket from the past few years. Obviously we're going to help have you guys help out a little bit with that. So we can kind of see where they are locational wise, what they are, and where they should be going, just so that throughout the years we kind of know where things are and track it and just push things through as well. After spring break, we're going to have the PIT crew, which is the PSG implementation task crew. And so the details will be finalized after break, so hopefully you guys will hear more about that, as well as the spring banquet. So that's mid to late April, and so that's kind of recognizing everyone for their efforts this year, and then kind of saying goodbye to the to the seniors, and then bringing in the new administration as well. And then in saying that, elections are coming up after spring break, and so make sure you guys are reposting the Instagram posts so that we can kind of spread the word and keep growing the PSG elections. Hopefully you guys are all coming back, so if you are, hopefully I get to see you here. If you're not, have a great year, but.
That made it sound like this was our last session. We have a few more, so no one's done yet. But anyways, the A- survey, which stands for A Day at the State House, was resent the other day. So if you're interested at all, please fill that out by the end of the week. For the new senators, that stands for, I already said, A Day at the State House, but on April 4th, we are going to be taking 25 Purdue students down to the State House, and we'll get a chance to talk to the lieutenant governor, meet with legislators, get free lunch. But yeah, it should be a very fun day. So if you're at all interested, please fill out that survey. And then anyone who has already filled it out, there were a few senators who did. You guys are all guaranteed a spot, and I will reach out to you after spring break with more specific information about our leaving times and the schedule. So that's great. And then, as Andrew was saying, we've got some great momentum going into elections. If you're at all interested in keeping your Senate seat, please let me or the pro temps know. Petitions are due tomorrow, but never say never. So there still might be time if you haven't started yet. But moving on, Chief of Staff Aregbi, do you have any announcements?
Yes, I do. I'd also like to apologize for my tire. I had a previous engagement before this, and I wasn't able to get home and change. That being said, I have some really cool updates for y'all. So tomorrow at 6 p.m. in Lilly 1105, we have a campus safety town hall. So this is sort of in response to the events at Michigan State. So we kind of partnered with PUPD to get them to sort of kind of share with students what their preparedness plan is. I think this is a really great opportunity to ask some questions and to really just hear all the really cool things that PUPD does that they don't really advertise. I know that I sat in a meeting with Andrew and our Deputy Chief of Staff, Braden, and a lot of the information that I heard was very new to me, so I think that this is information that's very beneficial for us to know as student leaders, and then just also in general for the student body to know. Additionally, just kind of going over really quick some of the things that we are doing in BOD. So with engagement, so they're working on an Eat and Study with PSG, LGBTQ plus Cultural Center collaboration. So essentially the idea there is that we're going to be able to provide food for folks within the new LGBTQ Cultural Center that opened up in Hicks. So while people are studying towards the end of March, we'll be able to do that. So that'll be happening the week after we get back from spring break. Additionally, DNI is working on a panel event that's happening March 30th, and they've got a lot of really cool administrators who are going to be able to come there and present and talk a little bit about what Purdue's DNI efforts are and some of our initiatives that we're working on. Additionally, Comms is working on a Women's History Month TikTok, and the whole idea there is to really showcase some of the amazing women leaders that we have within our organization. So if you hear from them, please reach out and please, I guess, respond to them and help them out with that initiative. And then next up, they're working on a Holy Post, and that's going to be a collaboration with the Association of South Asian Students at Purdue. And then HEAM had a mental health in the workplace event that took place this past week. And I actually wanted to take a break really quick. So if we could just give a quick round of applause to Jaden for the amount of work that she put into MHA this week. Running HEAM alone is no small event, and then MHA on top of that, it really just kind of shows the amount of dedication that Jaden has put towards this, just PSG in general, and just the university as a whole. And then the last thing that I want to share with y'all is that we have a really cool volunteering opportunity on April 2nd. So this is coming from the President's Office. So on April 2nd from 1 to 5 p.m., this is an opportunity to get to like hang out with the President's Office and get to really just engage with upper administrators. So if you're interested at all in any of that, please do reach out. We can definitely find a way to cut it down and make it shifts so that you don't have to be there for entirety of 1 to 5. But that's going to be a Sunday, so really cool. I can't share exactly what you're doing, but I can tell you that it is very interesting, and I would highly recommend getting involved if you can. So just shoot me a message, either Slack, email, whatever it is. The sooner the better, and I can get your information out to Martia King. Thank you.
Very nice. Do I hear any other executive reports at this time? Yes.
Yeah, so 2 quick notes for me. The first one being that we have exactly 3 sessions of Senate left after this one. So if you are looking at your Senate duties, please, if you haven't looked at your Senate duties, please do. Keep up on those, updating them as you guys go so we know where you're at. If you're a new senator and you're not sure exactly how those are going to get accomplished this semester, please have a talk with either Lily, Izzy, or I. We can figure out how you can get those done. Second note on election stuff. If you're looking at election stuff and you're realizing you're not going to be able to get your petition in by tomorrow, depending upon availability of seats, there is a potential to be appointed to those positions. So if anyone has any questions about that, or like, I really want to be involved with Senate next year, but I know either I'm not going to have time to, or I won't be able to get my petition completed, depending on how many people are running for particular seats, we can talk about the process of getting appointed. So please reach out to either Izzy, Lily, or I on that as well.
And just a comment, if Izzy, Ellie, or I have an outstanding like text or email that you have sent us, send us a follow-up. Our email has been swamped in the past 2 weeks with new senators and MHA stuff. So if you guys are like, oh, Izzy, Ellie, or I haven't gotten back to us, just follow up with us. I'm so sorry about that.
Yes.
Getting a lot of cool stuff in. The budget is almost up to date, but with MHA, I've got a lot of payments recently, just as we kind of get close to the end of the school year. Again, check out your Senate, college, and committee budgets, because you do have some funds available. I'm guessing most of the groups will be having an MHA event, which will take away from that, but just keep that in mind. And again, it's almost up to date. If you have any questions about it over the next few days looking at the budget, let me know. And then just a heads up, the next Senate session or the one after, the SFAB report will be coming out for the Senate to review. My draft right now is about 60 pages, so just a little heads up.
Very nice. Do I hear any other executive reports at this time? All right, seeing none, we can now move into committee reports, starting with IA.
Yeah, so right now IA is just trying to get the Senate standing rules updated with the bylaws and the Constitution being moved and parts of that being moved, and we're hoping to have it on the floor to the second to last meeting. I very strongly believe we can do it. Other than that, our MHA event is tomorrow from 9:30 to 11:30 in Croc. We made slime yesterday. You guys should come get some. It's green. But yeah, that's all.
Very nice. Financial affairs.
Yeah, so Shy isn't here, but today we'll be talking about Bill 2254, just talking about reallocating funds, and yeah, it should be good.
Very nice. Does anyone have the updates from campus and student resource affairs? Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, we just went over an update about the form going out, the questionnaire, like the different types of things that we're trying to cover. So we're just waiting for that to go out, probably post spring break. And then our event is going to be from 3 to 5 outside on Croc Lawn. There will be hamster balls you can run around on, so feel free to stop by and get in one because you can bump into people. You may have to sign a form, but otherwise it should be fun.
Perfect. Do you have
They also have lots of crumble cookies coming and lots of snacks, so please, please come and eat their free food even if you don't want to get into a hamster ball.
Perfect. University academic affairs.
Nothing much from us. We had our MHA event on Monday, and it was really cool. It was totally cool. Yeah, we don't really have much, but in the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about just legislation just for syllabi stuff. And then we did have a review about 2 of things that will be there, resolutions that will be here or talked about tonight.
Perfect. Now, ad hoc committee reports. Yeah.
Pride is currently still working on our action plan. That does not currently look like it will be on the floor by the end of this year, but we are hoping to get some sort of really finalized proposal to go to the floor over the summer and to finish writing it by the end of this year. It just looks like we're not going to have time by our last Senate session. That being said, a lot of fun data that we're going through, as well as collaborating with IUSG and reaching out to them to see if we can get some more information about what Purdue has versus what IU has, and just trying to collaborate across the university.
Perfect. Yeah.
I just wanted to add on, if you're at all interested in joining the Pride Committee and helping us with our action plan, you should totally do so. We meet at Sundays at 4, but we're flexible. We'll change. Just let us know.
We will create a new meeting time if you guys want to come.
Perfect.
Alrighty, so on the safer front, we're still working on our sexual violence town hall roundtable conversation. The last couple of weeks, last 3 weeks, we've been getting confirmation from administrators who want to be involved and who's going to oversee it. And then now we're reaching out to student organizations and figuring out exactly which student organizations want to be involved, who would be involved, what times work the best for everyone. So those dates are still getting finalized and hopefully going to have that in April. And then secondly, we still have 2 other events that are coming up in April as well. The first one being the Denim Day event. So if people don't know, it's an event that focuses on sexual violence prevention and awareness and painting some denim. So we're going to do that event, I believe, April 25th. Don't quote me directly. I will put it in all information once it's finalized. And then secondly, we'll have our consent tea party again in April. So Safer's working on a lot of different things right now in that field. And then I also have the Black Boilermaker Experiences ad hoc updates from Shy. They have no new updates except for that their MHA event is on Thursday. We'll be having a group discussion about the state of mental health in the Black Boilermaker community. So if you're interested or know anyone interested, please come.
Sounds great. Are there any other ad hoc committee reports at this time? Yes.
Okay, I didn't know the process for that. So we have had a really great week so far. Long week, but great week. We've had an event every day of this week, and then we'll have we'll have 2 tomorrow. So if you want to come to Puppies on Memorial Mall, come to that. Or a speaker event tomorrow night. It is the same time as the town hall, but it's at Fowler Hall. We'll have someone who's a Purdue alum who is going to be running for Miss Indiana, talking about body image, body dysmorphia, mental health, and we're partnering with Panhellenic for that. So, and then Friday we'll have a Lego of Stress event, Lego building competition. So, I also just want to thank every one of you guys for getting together an event. I know, personally speaking, who plans events, it's not easy. And I just really want to thank you because you all have put in a lot of hard work. and support for us, especially the pro temps and also exec. You guys have done a good job in supporting us, so I thank you. And also, I just want to say that all the students have had, I think, an amazing impact this week, and we've had several. At every event, students have come up to us and been like, "Thank you for doing this. It means a lot. I'm really going through something it's amazing," and that is what makes it all worth it. And I hope you guys find it worth it too. And so yeah, it's been a great time, and I thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Jaden. That was great. Seeing no more reports, we can now move into informal discussion. Do I hear any informal discussion at this time? All right, seeing none, we can now move into old business. Do I hear any old business at this time? Seeing none, we can now move to new business. Do I hear any new business? Yes, Pro Tem Dodona.
I move to bring up Bill 2254.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2254, reallocation of funds for PSG Small Grant Program. This bill is amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote. We will begin with discussion from the authors of the bill, and then we can move into discussion from the floor. Would anybody wish to start?
Yeah, so since Shai isn't here, I'll be talking about this a little bit. But FA has been doing small grants all throughout the semester. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but we've used $10,000 so far, almost $10,000 towards clubs around Purdue's campus. And so now we're getting to the point where we need more funding because it's been going so well. We've had about 5 clubs each week ask for funding. And so we've been able to review those each week. And now we're at the point where we're asking for $250 from Financial Affairs, IA, and then $500 from Senate Discretionary as well. If anybody else from FA wants to talk a little bit more about that, they can. But yeah, I'd love for you guys to support this.
Perfect. Is there any other discussion at this time? Yes.
I don't know if this is an answerable question right now, but I want to ask it anyways. Is there anybody from Financial Affairs can give an estimate on a prediction of how long this will last? Like, is the plan for this money to be what follows that carries through Financial Affairs until the end of the semester? There might not be someone who can answer it, but I thought I'd ask.
Honestly, I do not have the answer to that. I wish I was here, but yeah, I do not have the answer to that.
Do I hear any other discussion? Yes. Or would somebody like to yield some time to Treasurer Wiseman? Yes.
I'll yield 2 minutes of my time to Treasurer Wiseman.
First of all, I literally just put this in an hour ago. Financial Affairs only has $240 left in their budget. So I don't know if you want to do like 510 from Senate Discretionary or something. I don't know. That was just from your MHA event, brought it down. I'm looking at the numbers. Second, just kind of a big picture thing. I don't know how many of you will be here next year. In the grand scheme of things, PSG has a limited budget. I know like $100,000, that's a lot of money. Like when you look at events and programming, it's not, you think $10,000 is a lot, it's not. But if this program is to continue to grow, I think we need to keep in mind that at some point we have to put a stop to it so that the rest of the budget can still be saved for the programming and the initiatives of that current year. So I think it'll be a conversation coming up in the fall of how much small grants gets based off this year, but something to keep in mind. I think it's a good program, but at some point we got to say this is all we're going to give to it.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
To counter off of Sean's point a little bit on this would be a year-to-year determination of how much Financial Affairs would get to their small grants program. I do think that that is a conversation that's pretty fluid, and I'm not an FA, never been an FA. I'm thankful for that for multitude of I'm not good at budgets reasons. But it is a fluid conversation year to year of how much one would want to allocate, and the Senate is the primary one of the primary responsibilities of the Senate is to determine budgetary things. Sorry, that was less eloquent than it should have been. But I think that as we look at this funding and as we look at this year, I think that our vote should not be focused as much to the precedent that this sets for next year, and more to, is this something that we as a Senate in this year would like to allocate? Or at least that's how I view it.
Would somebody like to allocate some time to Press Secretary Escunas? Yes, Pro Tem Ferguson.
I'll allocate 2 more minutes of my time to Press Secretary Escunas.
So as a former FA chair, I'm really excited to see this bill, obviously. This is the first time ever the FA has completely run out of money for the small grants program. That's something we worked really hard to set up to make sure it would happen at the beginning of the year. So regardless, this issue of expanding the small grants program and allocating money is a really good problem to have.
Pro Tem Dodona.
I'm going to make a friendly amendment. I know that I said this was okay, so so everyone else is here. Hopefully they'll accept this amendment that I'll lower the financial affairs contribution to $240 to make it in alignment with what Sean says our current budget is. Is there any problems from financial affairs members on there?
No.
Delightful. And then secondly, I always like to say that one of our primary responsibilities as a student government is to support students, and we can't claim to support students if we don't support them monetarily. So I'm always in support of being able to give more of our money that is meant for students directly to students.
Yes. I just wanted to say that I'm completely in favor of the $250 from IA's budget going towards this. I just wanted to say that.
All right. Do I hear any other discussion at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we can now move to a vote on Bill 2254. So all those in favor, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay. Seeing that voting is done, please mark your vote into SharePoint. But while you're doing that, with the vote of 25 to 0, Bill 2254 passes. So congratulations, FA. Yes. Okay.
Point of order, if you're a new senator, just mark it that Izzy will put it in later in terms of the SharePoint, so don't worry about it.
Yes, what she says is true. And we'll add you in after this meeting. Okay, do I hear any new business? Yes, Pro Tem Ferguson.
I move to bring up Joint Resolution 22-JR004.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Joint Resolution 22-JR004, resolution in support of a Southwest Asian and North African Cultural Center. This bill is amendable, debatable, requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move into discussion from the floor. Yeah.
I'm not an author, but I can speak a little bit on the history of this bill, as well as if anyone who came to speak on its behalf, or just to view on its behalf from the Student Association would like to speak. But history of this bill, passed in Purdue student government last spring, was then sent to Purdue graduate student government. Purdue graduate student government made some amendments. After those amendments, it went to a presidential delegation where interested parties talked it through and came to this final draft of this joint resolution. What the primary goals of this resolution would be is to support the use of a separate demographic category and demographic questionnaires for Southwest Asian and North African students, as well as advocating for a creation of a Southwest Asian and North African Cultural Center. So if you guys have any questions or if anyone else would like to speak, I'll yield the rest of my time.
I'm sorry, can you use the little, the triangle microphone? It's just hard to hear. Thank you.
You guys hear me? I don't know. Anyway, sorry about that. Like I said, I'm the president of the Southwest Asian and North African Student Union. I represent a group of students here on campus that are constantly directed to the ARC, even though half of our population lives in North Africa. We are represented on Purdue's demographics. Our counted as white. The only way we have to refer to students is student numbers. So having a separate law trust all Purdue surveys will help us show centers. So having another cultural center will show that Purdue is also continually in progress in terms of bringing diversity to campus and making sure that all of the students
Thank you. Would somebody like to yield some time to President Jensen? Yes, Pro Tem Ferguson.
I yield 2 minutes of my time to President Jensen.
Thank you. Just to give a quick update as well, yesterday Izzy and I met with Provost Wolf and we went over how this was going through both graduate student government as well as undergraduate student government. And he is really looking forward to it going through University Senate. He's looking forward to saying words on it as well within University Senate. And so he's a big advocate for at least putting that demographic within I guess Purdue's surveys to see the need for the cultural center, and then from that data, looking forward to seeing what Purdue and as a provost they can do with that. As I said earlier as well, this did pass unanimously through graduate student government, and so obviously I'm in definitely full support of this. I know that in that presidential delegation, as Lily was talking about, there was some verbiage changes to make it a little bit more inclusive of who was all involved within that SWANA section.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
I also just want to make comment that at this point, this joint resolution is non-amendable. So this would be the final wording of the resolution.
Any more discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we can now move to a vote on Joint Resolution 22JR004. All those in favor, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay. Please mark that into SharePoint. Make sure you are putting resolution instead of bills. But with a vote of 25 to 0, Joint Resolution 22JR0004 passes. Congratulations.
What point of inquiry, what number should we put, or should we put this into SharePoint because it'll override the 4?
You can put it as like 50 and then I'll shift it over.
Cool.
Because we haven't hit 50 quite yet. Okay, do I hear any new business? Pro Tem Ferguson?
I move to bring up Resolution 2255.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Resolution 2235, or 55, resolution in support of requiring scheduled office hours by Purdue instructors for introductory courses. This resolution is amendable and debatable and requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move into discussion from the floor. So, Pro Tem Ferguson, would you like to begin?
Yeah, of course. So this was a piece of legislation that was brought to me by constituent/friend of mine, Russ Kleiner, out of a growing trend of professors not having scheduled office hours, like I have my office hours Friday from 11 to 2, but rather having these office hours by appointment. And so for introductory courses, especially for newer students coming into campus, this can create some sort of barrier to entry rather than having a set time where you might be able to go and see your professor. And so the idea of this would be to create a policy that would require 1 hour of scheduled office hours per week in any format, and that this would be a new office hour policy. Through conversations with Vice Provost Rickus, who is our Vice Provost of Teaching and Learning, there are no current policies that govern office hours. So if you guys have any questions, I am more than happy to answer them.
Any other discussion from the floor? Yes, Pro Tem Dodona.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate a conversation that we had in caucus that I thought was really meaningful, is the potential for having these set office hours, particularly to lend towards areas for mentorship for students that oftentimes, like, being able to create mentors and connections on campus are through those one-on-one connections, and having non-office hours that aren't scheduled sometimes, like, diminishes those connections. And so I think it's really important for those opportunities to be preserved as much as possible, but particularly for new students entering things like introductory courses.
Is there any other discussion from the floor? Yes, Pro Tem Ferguson.
I also wanted to add that Russ wanted me to say that he apologizes that he cannot be in attendance, but hopes that everyone will vote in favor to support primarily the undergraduate student population.
Perfect. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, we can now move to a vote on Resolution 2255. So all those in favor, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay. Seeing none, you can now mark your vote into SharePoint, and you can still use, Lily, correct me if I'm wrong, the Bill 2055 format because we've
Resolution 2255. So
Okay.
sorry, Ellie's PowerPoint's wrong.
Perfect. Okay, well, congratulations to Pro Tem Ferguson and Russ for getting that passed. Okay, do I hear any more new business? Seeing none, we can now move into announcements. Do I hear any announcements at this time? Okay. Yes.
Please go to the MHA events. They're all over campus. It's so meaningful when you see PSG people come to these events and sort of show your support. I know a lot of you guys are involved in hosting them, but I also really, really recommend that you go to one and talk to the people who are running it and make connections across PSG. It's such a big initiative that PSG puts on that participating in any way possible is really, really imperative to our organization.
Senator De Silva.
For any new senators that don't have office hours set up, I'm going to reach out to you and we can try to figure that out. But just look for that Slack message.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
On Ellie's note, MHA event tomorrow, 12 to 4, dogs on Memorial Mall. There will be hot chocolate and puppies. And then on Friday, again, I'm just going to reiterate Jaden's points. Friday, Lego event, 12 to 4 in the Union. And then CSRA's event is 3 to 5 on Croc Lawn. So, and IA's is tomorrow from 9:30 to 11:30 in Croc Lobby.
Perfect. Also be sure to put all your MHA events in the Slack so everyone knows and can keep track of it that way as well. So yeah, if there are no more announcements at this time, we can now move into Senate Snaps. So for any newcomers, Senate Snaps is a way to recognize the hard work of others within PSG. So I'm actually going to start and give a snap to Morgan. She won an award last night at the FSCL Honors Night, and she's so deserving of it. So congratulations, Morgan. Yay. Yes, Senator Brown.
Absolutely. So snaps to the new senators. Welcome to have you. To the proxies who are here, great to have you all. And a great line set by Lucas. Good stuff. Everyone's doing a great job. Keep it up.
Yes, Senator De Silva.
I just want to give a snaps to IA for making the slime last night. I know it wasn't the best time during the week, but we did it.
Pro Tem Dodona.
I'd like to give a snap to our kind of new IA chair. She has been doing a fantastic job in her position and has really taken up the role that needed to be filled, and we really appreciate all the hard work that they put into this.
All right, any more snaps tonight? Okay. Seeing no more further announcements of snaps, the chair would recognize a motion to adjourn. Yes, Pro Tem Dodona.
Madam Chair, I move that we do now adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and seconded to adjourn the meeting. It's not amendable, it's not debatable, and requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.